she bit its head off is what I'm trying to say. This will be one of the last updates on the 375-gallon aquarium for quite a while. I wanted to do an update today because there's a few interesting things that have happened in this tank. There's also some things I need to do, so I figured let me tell a story and get those things done all at the same time. So a couple of things I want to show you right off the bat. First things first, look at the substrate. Entirely clean. You guys will remember that I was struggling with this before. That was in keeping it clean because we had removed all of that aqua soil from that far end over here, and it created a massive mess within the aquarium. The only thing that I still have to kind of clean up here is the moss. As you can see, it's still, well, actually, as we go to some lower flow zones, you can see here, it's still kind of coated in a little bit of aqua soil dust. That stuff is absolutely the messiest soil I've ever used, but it's also one of the best I've ever used. So, you know, kind of pros and cons to everything that you could possibly use. That said, why is the soil so clean? Well, we've adjusted the flow of the wave makers, those Ecotech wave makers, but it's also contributed to this little girl swimming under there, if you can see her. So rays are constantly turning the substrate over and, you know, just fanning the bottom. And of course, removing any debris that might be on the bottom of the aquarium so that the filtration can remove it. You might be wondering, why is the sand kind of pushed back? Like I've said before, this is what rays do. She'll swim up the side and come down, and she pushes it. Comes up the side, comes down, pushes it. And she'll do that around the entire perimeter of the aquarium, which is even more evident over here with the big guys. As you can see, they've really pushed the substrate back. And this is unavoidable unless you want to have a foot deep of sand, which is definitely going to cause you more problems than it's worth over time with, you know, anaerobic regions and nitrogen gas being released. And of course, you know, uneaten food, everything else being trapped in it. And if this was my only aquarium that I had to take care of, no problem. I can get in there and clean it, but I've got thousands of gallons out here. This tank, I'm going to give you a sneak peek. This tank is getting a massive overhaul. And by massive, I mean I've got to drain the tank, remove all the decorations, remove the fish, and we're almost starting over. We're of course going to keep the same fish. We're going to have 5 freshwater stingrays in here, as well as the Asian arowana, and I'll admit the tank looks empty with just these little fish in it, but we have to remember that this guy's going to get to about 2.5 feet long. Those rays are going to be, you know, 3.5 feet long, a disc that's, you know, like this, just an absolutely massive creature, and we're going to have 5 in there. So in a couple of years, of course, this tank will fill out tremendously, but we just really have to be patient. But like I said, the tank in here is looking really good. Everything is really healthy. The fish are really healthy. I really enjoy the position of this tank. Some people have said, now that the tank is pushed up against the wall, are you going to rescape it? No, I love it like this. We can kind of look at it from a bunch of different angles. And of course, having the gray background back there, just like the color of the wall here, in my opinion, it adds an extreme amount of depth. In fact, I've been trying to, you know, toying with the idea of putting some lights back there just to see what it would look like. But we'll see, maybe some light blue lights or something like that. Almost like the LED strips that I have underneath the tank that exposes the sump underneath, which some people have even said, you know, you need to cover this up. No, I built the stand just like this and ripped open the front so we can have complete access and kind of display this sump at, you know, at all times, which is a work of art in itself, to be honest with you, and I love it being exposed like this. Clearly on camera, when you kind of see it like this sort of thing, I guess it doesn't look that great, but you know, if you're a long-time viewer of this channel, you know what I'm doing, and you know what the reason for having this open like this. Now that we're down here, I should probably tell you a little story about what happened with some nearite snails that I added to this tank. I added about 15 or 20 to this aquarium a little while ago, just to help with algae if there was any, and you know, just to turn over the substrate and whatnot. And of course, this was before we added the stingray. I knew once I added the stingray, there was a chance that she could eat them or crush them, but nearite snails have a pretty tough shell and they grow to be quite large, but they don't really breed in fresh water. In fact, they just don't. So if I have 15, I'm always going to have 15 unless they die or get out of the tank, and snails will do whatever they want. With that said, I picked up some pretty large nearite snails that I thought wouldn't be able to get out of the overflow up here. This is 1/4 inch teeth up here, and those teeth go up to the top of the aquarium. There's no way they can crawl over them, but they can only get through them. If you guys remember, I built this overflow. I showed you exactly how to do it. However, some got through. In fact, I'm not sure how many got through, but this is a big tank. lots of wood. I have seen some of the snails on the wood, so I suspect most of them are in there. But one day I came home and I came out here and I heard one of my pumps just grinding. And I immediately shut it off. I looked down and a few of these fell out of it. Little nearite snail shells. There's 4 in there, but oh, and look, see, the pump is really dirty. That's that dusting that is all throughout the aquarium. I got to do a really big cleanup of this tank and really clean this out. But, you know, it's adding nutrients to the tank, and the moss loves it. The moss is doing fantastic, so I've decided to kind of leave it. Just because, technically, the stocking in this tank is relatively low in comparison to the volume of water. I mean, we've got almost, you know, well, we do have 500 gallons of water. We have a bunch of tiny little fish and one little stingray. Again, in 500 gallons of water, where I'm doing 30% water changes every 3 days. This one actually is begun to get, you know, 50% once a week, like the rest of the tanks. But when it was first set up, I was doing far more. So no dice on the nearite snails. They got down there. It's unfortunate that they did get down there, and you know, they were kind of sucked out of their shell, I'm guessing, and minced up. There's probably more in the sump somewhere that I'm not seeing. I'm happy that the pumps didn't burn out or it ruined the impeller, but these are centrifugal pumps, meaning that they can actually even pump sand, like murky sand if you needed it to. To be honest with you, I've tried it. They will do it. I put these things through their limits. Those are the Ecotech Vectras. Last time I talked about this 375 gallon tank, we talked about the fact that the wood kind of collapsed and it's just looking sad right now. I don't mind the way it looks, but one of the things I would like to do is kind of bring up the middle a little bit. I don't know if you guys like it as is, but I think I'm just going to get in there and adjust some of the wood. The water might become a little murky, but I've got to do a water change today anyway, so let's go ahead and see what we can come up with. Now the wood is sunken. However, it's still almost buoyant. It's very easy to move it around. So when I do this, I just create a huge mess. So hopefully I'm able to make something look relatively better. I would like to fill it out in the middle a little bit more. Mind you, there's only, I think, 5 actual pieces of wood in here. So I don't have a lot to work with, although I got tremendous amount more outside if I need it. Ideally, I should drain the tank before doing this, but I'd rather just do it, see what happens. I'm happy with that. Isn't that ridiculous? So all I wanted to do is fill out the middle a little bit more. Adjusted this piece here and a piece in the back and a piece in the center. I like that a lot more. I think I will add a little bit of more wood, or I think what I might do is when I do my big water change, I'll bring the water level down considerably, and I want to spread the wood out. I don't know. I love messing with this tank though. It's so easy to, you know, manipulate it and change things that, yeah, I might as well just do it. Okay, story time. In order to feed this tank, I have to do 2 things. One, I have to feed the rainbows immediately and distract them almost while I feed the freshwater ray. Why? Because I've noticed that when I'm dropping in the food to the ray, this cloud of fish just takes it all. Regardless of the size of it, they take it and run off with it like little dogs with a bone too big for their mouth. So, what I've been doing here is, I'll show you guys, I'll drop in some food. I like to drop in tiny pellets for these guys from time to time because it does take them longer to eat them, and they also expand inside of their bellies, so it fills them a little bit more. When it comes to the ray though, I got to take this long acrylic tube. Now I got this idea from my friend Mark Levingston from Melv's Reef, which also doubles as my favorite saltwater channel for aquariums, but he used this big 4-inch tube to add clownfish to his aquarium. Directly to an anemone, really interesting. So I thought maybe if I just drop food in through this, I could bypass all of the fish and just feed the ray directly. So that's exactly what I do now. And it's a little bit fun to do so as well. So I'll give you guys an idea of what this looks like. She's right there. Put this in all the way like that. Now she's just getting a mix of some shrimp and you know, a bit of a homemade recipe that I do for larger fish. She'll jump on that. And she didn't like me touching her. It's all clumped up right now. It usually breaks apart, but it was sitting here for a while. I'll just chase her. Yeah, now she knows it's there. And she'll rip that apart. Yeah, so now she can get all the food she wants without having to worry about all the rainbows, you know, bugging her or anything like that. See, this is what they do. See them taking that clump of food? They'll take it and run off with it. Like a little pack of piranhas. The pearl has that big chunk though, the most of it. So she's getting everything she needs. She's growing, she's doing fine. But you'll notice in this video and in many other videos showcasing this aquarium, the rainbows leave the pearl stingray alone. They don't bother her whatsoever, which is a good thing because rays are a very curious creature. If a fish goes near them, almost regardless of their size, they're going to try to mouth them, pin them up against the glass, taste them. In a lot of cases, they'll bite their heads off. It's just part of what rays do. They're not necessarily an aggressive fish like that. They're just very curious. You keep them well fed and they're not going to kill anything in the tank, even these small little things. In fact, as you can see, the pearl simply just doesn't even care that there's a ton of rainbows around it. It's searching through the substrate. There's rainbows inches from her head, and you know, she's just looking for food, minding her own business. But there was a bully in the tank. One of these big rainbows, or one of these rainbows, became one of the big dominant males, and a dominant male at times does dominant things, including nipping at the pearl. I noticed that this one individual rainbow, it was the most beautiful in the tank, continuously followed the pearl around wherever it went, nipping at her. I thought, yeah, long term this is going to be a problem. I'm going to have to remove that individual rainbow. Good luck. I'm not removing the pearl. No real place to put her right now. She can stay in here, no problem. But when it came to this one rainbow, it was so persistently biting at her that eventually it caused a sore in the exact same spot on her disc, which is completely healed now and no other rainbow has gone near her. However, that little spot that it was picking at exposed a bit of the flesh on the ray. Mostly just like a white irritation, really. It wasn't really flesh. With that said, that's now a target for that rainbow to attack the pearl. It continuously picked and picked and picked and picked and picked at that spot. Now this wasn't over the course of days or even weeks. This is like, I noticed it one day and the very next day this happened. My friend Gary was over, we were both sitting here just talking about a few things, and he looks over at the aquarium, he's like, oh my God! The pearl had that bully rainbow pinned up against the glass, and I thought, that's the one. It's such a beautiful rainbow fish, so dark and red in coloration that, you know, giving you a real idea of what these guys will one day look like. They have a long ways to go, of course, but she had it pinned up against the acrylic, and I knew that that rainbow got a little too close and irritated that ray a little too much, and you know, something like this was potentially bound to happen. I think the little pearl stingray got a little fed up with that rainbow and wouldn't let it go. I just let nature take its course and let them do their own thing. Now, of course, this isn't nature. We can call this nature all we want, but we have captive animals inside of a glass box. A lot of people judge me of what I do. Meanwhile, they turn around and they've got an aquarium right behind them. These are captive animals inside of glass boxes, and we control their environment. Anything that happens to them, regardless of, I don't know what happened, it wasn't my fault, etc., etc. The minute we put an animal inside captivity, you are responsible. It is your fault, and I'm no different. She bit its head off is what I'm trying to say. She killed it and let it go. She wasn't interested in eating it. She couldn't. She stopped the rainbow from biting her, and that was it. And unfortunately, the rainbow had to move on without a head, but I removed it and everything's been fine since. There's been no problems, but there's been no issues. I knew that this might eventually happen where look at them still going after a little piece of food. This is why I have to target feed her. And they'll eat it. They don't care. Rainbows pretty much eat anything you offer them. But yeah, so that's my story today on the fact that she just bit its head off to control a problem. And I guess moral of the story for any of you bullies out there that like to bully little younger kids in school is eventually one of these days they're going to turn on you too.